This is section 2.4, and in section 2.4 we're going to continue to use right angle triangles. We're going to come up with two new formulas that deal with the three sides that we've been using in the tangent ratio. So let's review quickly the three sides in a right angle triangle. And the three sides depend on where you're standing. You're never standing at the right angle. Let's imagine for this triangle that you're going to stand up here. First side you're going to label is the hypotenuse, which is always directly across from that little square in the right triangle or in the right angle. The next side you're going to label is the opposite side, and the third side you're going to label is the adjacent side. Now the tangent, we used opposite over adjacent. Today we're going to learn first of all about the cosine of angle A, and the cosine of angle A is the length of the adjacent side, which is right here, divided by the length of the hypotenuse, which is here. The short form of that is cos of A equals adjacent over hypotenuse, or adj over height. The second one we're going to learn about is the sine of angle A, and the sine of angle A is equal to the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the hypotenuse. And again, our short form is the sine of A is op over hype, or opposite over hypotenuse. Some math teachers give you an acronym to help you learn these, and it's pronounced SOHCAHTOA, and it's spelt like this. And what it stands for is sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent. So that can help you memorize the three formulas. We're going to do a few examples now. Now again, the wording of these is important, and the first one says determine the sine and cosine of each angle to the nearest hundredth. If it asks you to find the sine or the cosine, and sometimes it'll be followed by the word ratio, sometimes it won't, what they're asking you to find is either the fraction from the triangle, or they're asking you to find the decimal from the calculator. And you do not hit the shift button to do these ones. So all we're going to do is we are going to find the sine, and we just use the SIN for sine, of 62. So punch 62 sine or sine 62 into your calculator depending on how it works, and you should end up with 0.8829. And again, let's do the same for cosine of 62 degrees. Hit 62 cos, or cos of 62 in your calculator, and you should end up with 0.4695. Now, I've started out writing these with the normal amount of decimals that we do. However, we were asked to round, in this case, to the nearest hundredth. So let's change these answers. Again, we're going to remove the last decimal. If the last decimal is 5 or bigger, like this one, when we remove him, we're going to bump him up 1. Now this one's a little bit different. When we remove him, we need to bump him up. But how do we bump up a 9? Well, technically we actually have a 69. So when we bump him up, we are going to end up with 0.470. And that's the answer for those two. This is 2.4, part 2. And for this second part, we're going to continue to find the sine and the cosine of 22 degrees. So again, to find the sine of 22 degrees, it's written as sine of 22, and you're either going to press 22 sine or sine 22 in your calculator. And when you do that, you end up with an answer that we normally write to 4 decimal places. So I'm going to begin by doing that. Our question asked us to round this off to the nearest hundredth, which means 3 decimal places. So this last guy needs to go. If the guy that needs to go is 5 or bigger, the guy that's left behind right in front of him is going to get bounced up 1. And that's going to be the situation in this case here. We're going to end up with 0.375. Now the cosine of 22 degrees will turn into 0.9272. And again, to the nearest hundredth means that he needs to go. He is not 5 or bigger. So essentially erasing him has no effect on the remaining numbers. Example number 2, determine the measure of each angle t to the nearest degree. Note, when you are asked to find the size of an angle using sine or cos or tan, you will always use the shift or the second button in your calculator. So the general rule is, if beside the word sine or cos or tan you have a letter, you are going to use your shift button or second. If you actually had a number in that spot, you would not use the shift button. So in our situation here, the first guy, sine of t is 0.07834. In your calculator, just to refresh, some of you are going to hit 0.7834 first, then you're going to hit your second or your shift button, then you're going to hit sine, and then you're going to hit equals. Some of you, on the other hand, will hit second first, and then your sine button next, and then 0.07834, and then your equal sign. Regardless, you should find out that your angle T is equal to 52 degrees. You will notice that I rounded off to the nearest degree, like I was asked, which means I have no decimal places. The other thing that you will notice is that I no longer have the word sine in front of my t. If the sine of angle t is 0.7834, that tells me angle t himself is 52 degrees. No sine needed, you've used it up. Now to find the cosine of t, the same thing. You're either going to type in 0.1279 second cos, or second cos 0.1279. Try it. You should find out that angle T in this case turns out to be 83 degrees. While you're listening to these notes, you should pause it periodically to try the question on your own and see if you get the same answer that I did when I did it with you. The third one, again, we're going to go back to tangent, 1.5834 second tan, or second tan 1.5834. You should find out that angle T is equal to 58 degrees to the nearest degree.